Welcome to Pinball Mayhem. My name is Jeremy, and this is my 1962 United Manufacturing Corporation Shuffle Alley. Reason why I'm showing you this is we're going to look at the schematic for it today. As you can imagine, with all these different games and all these score reels and whatnot, it's got a lot going on. Now, the basis of today's video is just going to be basics, kind of how you use a schematic, why they look the way they do, kind of thing. Just little things like that. Hopefully help you out next time you need to use one. Hope you enjoy the video. If you do, please like and subscribe. Check us out on Facebook. Now let's get to that schematic. Here is the schematic. Now this is really only part of the story because, as you can see here, we'll just start super simple. We got obviously the name, United Embassy Shuffle Alley. But we've got a legend here, kind of like a road map. We've got A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3, etc. all the way down. And down, down, down. What those are for is for another document that would go with this, and it would say, like, if you were looking for player up disk. It's on here a whole bunch of times because it's a pretty complicated part. But the other document that would go along with this would say, well, if you need to find that, check A1, and you kind of look in this quadrant for it. So that's just kind of the basics right there. And here's another thing on the schematic. They do the best to help us out. The schematic isn't meant for the owner of the machine. It's meant for repair technicians. But we've got symbols for switches. This tells you what the switch is. I'm not going to go into super duper details. This won't be a long video. But it's important to know what a switch looks like on here. What a coil looks like, which is a little wound piece here. What a transformer looks like, which is a whole bunch of windings. And for this manufacturer, what a light bulb looks like. Which now it says lights, but it's just a little circle, an open circle. As we start at the head of the schematic, this is where the power comes in. This will tell you a lot right here, because it will tell you that you've got your 100 volt, 115 volt service outlet, which is just line power, and there's no switches in here, so this is always live when it's plugged in. Here's your main on-off switch, and we got some various other things that are 110 volt controlled. We've also got two lights that are under the pin deck that illuminate the pins. Those are also 120 volt. And then the next thing in line is our first transformer for this game. This game has two transformers. Here's your main one. Now, since this is a generic video, I'm not really going to go into specifics about it, but we'll look at the main transformer because that one's going to be the most interesting. It's split into two parts. We've got 50 volts here, and we've got 6 volts. And the main thing to know about this is two sections, but we really only have 3 lines coming off of it. We've got the common, which is yellow, because we got power going this way and this way. This is alternating current. And we've got black up here. So yellow and black is 50 volts. Yellow, and we split it off a couple times, but it's on the one tap, so we got gray and we got white. So either of those combinations in yellow are 6 volts. There are not any circuits that go from the bottom to the top here. It's all center tap stuff. You can see where our fuses are. Everything's labeled really clearly. This is a really good quality schematic. We've got some more fuses down here. So if you look at fuses and you're able to see the wire colors, you can kind of figure out what stuff does. If you've got a problem with the machine, you can narrow it down where to look by using the schematic. If you looked at my last video where I had a problem with the scoring, I used the schematic to help identify where I should be looking. For that particular problem, I had an issue where the coil was activating that would remove bonus, and it was activating at the wrong time. And what we got here is this, for my particular issue I was having, I was looking at the strike spare step up reset coils. And for these particular coils, the only way they can activate is with a pulse from above. And we have 0 switches here, but these are open at 0. Because this, the way the schematic is shown is where the machine's going to be at rest, usually. And there would be a note on that. So for my particular issue, it's like, boy, what activates these guys? So we have a contact here for the strike spare reset relay. I looked at that and it was good. So I didn't get out the test gear. This was just because I've been through my machine. It was working good. So I wasn't going to go digging around with a voltmeter. I just needed to look at contacts. So for that particular issue, we went here. And I was like, well, okay. I've got contacts here. But what activates these contacts? So then you got to look for the coil. And the coil on this one was way the heck over here. So that really didn't help me out much. We found out that there's game selection disc and a whole bunch of stuff with the score motor disc, which is one of the most complicated pieces on here. There's a lot of wiring in it. But I had this bonus relay contact. And that's actually where my problem was on that one. They were too close together, and it was causing an issue. So the schematic really helped me out there to zero it in where I needed to look for my problem. And a lot of times that's all it is. When you take one of these old machines, I wouldn't have been able to put this together in my basement here and power it on after it's been sitting for 10 years or longer with old grease in it and whatnot. It wouldn't have worked. Contacts would be dirty, mechanisms wouldn't have worked properly, and it would have been hopeless, and the schematic would not have helped me out. It would have just been horrible. I would have been pulling my hair out. So that's why I went through everything, granted a little more thoroughly than I needed to, but I really enjoyed the process, so it's okay. But that's kind of where a schematic can help you out, just helping you identify where to look. And while I certainly didn't go over everything in the schematic, because that's not the focus of this video, it's just kind of give you a glimpse on how to look it up and just the basics of it. And know that if you've got a problem with the dual light, let's say on this particular issue, if you've got a problem with the dual flashing lights here, well, what turns those on? So you find it, and it's like, okay, this power line is half of it, and on this particular instance, the game selection disc is the other half. So if that light bulb isn't lighting up, you got issues with the wire or game selection disc or something down here. So it helps you really zero in on where you need to look. And hope you learned something. If you got any questions, let me know. But it's not super intimidating. You just got to look it over, take your time, and do the best you can and ask questions. Okay, I just thought of another example. On my shuffle alley, when I got it all together, I had some issues with these lights. They weren't working all right away, which is okay. I knew that could happen. They were a little flaky. They just didn't work great, but I knew the sockets were good. So let's take this for an easy example. So I went over to the schematic, and I know small light bulbs are 6 volts. So our problem is going to, our light bulbs are most likely going to be in this area because they're powered by 6 volts. And what we got here is hood pin lights. And these are all the pins, 1 through 10. So it's a pretty darn simple circuit, but instead of tracing wires and trying to figure stuff out, this is a lot easier to do this. 10 light. It says 10 pin. There's a switch right on the pin, or on the mechanism on top of the pin there. So it was just super easy for me to look at that and go, oh, I just need to look at that contact and clean it or adjust it. And that was as simple as it was. I didn't pull my hair out. It was super easy. But for some of these other lights, where the distance is a little farther away, we've got like this frame drum light. Let's say that was acting up on me. That's in the front on top there, but that gets its power also on the 6-volt rail. 11th frame relay. There's a leaf, one leaf in there, and you see there's multiple switches on that 11th frame relay in here that control different things. So just another example of how using a schematic can make life much easier.